Hello, Internet, and thank you for joining me today.
So, is anyone else enjoying this weather? No? Just me? Yeah, whatever. You guys are a bunch of losers. Regardless, the best part about being snowed in is being able to catch up on all your favorite streaming shows from all your favorite streaming services. And this blizzard in particular has allowed me to make my way through an entire case of maple flavored glazed donuts by Hostess. And while I was eating those donuts, I was able to catch up on a couple of those aforementioned shows. The first of which was The Solar Opposites, which I binged the entire series this past week, and gotta say, it's pretty good, but that's not what I actually want to talk about today, because the most recent show that I watched was actually Invincible, or at least I caught up to Invincible, because at time of recording, we are at Season 3, Episode 4, which should give me enough to make a video on, so let's get into that. And as per usual, I have a couple of disclaimers to get through before I really get into the meat of this thing here. First of all, I'm going to be complaining a lot in this video, as I normally do, but this is actually one of the best shows that's airing right now. So I wanted to say that up front. I'll get to compliments later, but I'm going to start out with all of my complaining. But one other disclaimer here is that I have not read the comics. I have no idea what's going to happen week to week while I'm watching this show. So it's brand new to me, like it is to many other people, because no one reads print media anymore. And this also means that I'm not going to be complaining about things that were in the comic and aren't in the show, or are in the show and not in the comic. And that should be great for everyone. And one final disclaimer here before I get directly into my complaints is going to be that I am not recapping this entire show. It's good enough for me to recommend it to everyone listening. So if you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and get out there and watch it before you watch this video. But definitely come back and finish this video. I need the watch time. And with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into complaint number 1. Now, my first complaint here is definitely going to be a, let's say, personal one, because I don't want to call it petty. That complaint is actually just going to be the entire character of Alan. Now, it could just be that he's voiced by the mistake that all of us made in 2009, Seth Rogen. But every line this character has upsets me and makes me want to stop watching, honestly. If he was some unimportant character, like off to the side, I could deal with this. But he's like really important. He's the biggest threat to the main antagonist, the Viltrum Empire. So why the fuck is he so jokey all the time? The entire rest of the show is structured to allow for comedy and drama, but Seth Rogen's untalented ass just can't seem to grasp onto this. Like, the tone that he creates through his acting doesn't fit at all, which is why I can't stand him in pretty much anything he's in. He's always just Seth Rogen, the douche, not whatever character he's trying to play. So I'm just going to call this character Seth Rogen from now on. But in addition to those complaints that I have just about Seth Rogen, the character, is the least compelling character in this show. Everyone else has people they care about and motivations to do what they do, but Seth Rogen doesn't have any of this. Seth Rogen has like a girlfriend or something on the planet he's from, or the space station he's on, or whatever, but she's not a character either, so it's really hard to care if she lives or dies. And on top of that, Seth Rogen never mentions this character, so she might as well not even exist. He also does have the old guy on the spaceship that turns out that he's a Viltrum dude, but he is played by Peter Cullen, and that's pretty much all we know about this character. We're not given a whole lot of compelling reasons to really back his side of things yet. That might come in the future, but it still doesn't play to Seth Rogen's strengths. And I promise that this is not just me shitting on Seth Rogen for 10 minutes, but I just have to say one more thing about this waste of airtime before I move on. Seth Rogen doesn't earn his power. Yeah, he got his ass kicked, and then there was this whole thing where they turned off his life support, and that made him stronger, but he didn't, earn that, right? He literally just went out into space, got his ass kicked, and now he's stronger. That's a very uncompelling narrative reason to have him be the strongest character in the entire show, which is what I think they're more or less building up to. He does kind of get into a fight in the most recent episode, and it's kind of stated that he had to put a lot of effort into it, but we don't really see that. And really, this is a problem that the show creates, because the show does an amazing job the rest of the time with every other character building up to their power. Even Mark, who literally just gets superpowers one day, he still has to fight for every victory. And man, Mark gets his ass kicked all the time. That's the show's default state, is just Mark getting his shit pushed in. However, let's move on from Seth Rogen and his shitty acting and move on to my second complaint about this show, which is pacing, which season 2 is probably the worst at this. It really exemplifies this issue that I have 100%. The pacing is just so slow at times, but then doesn't focus on enough of the other parts to justify it. It's a real weird pacing issue. If I could explain, the entire time that we spend in this show with Amber in season 2 is a complete waste. You would change little to nothing if you removed her from the second season and say they just broke up between seasons. Their relationship circles the drain for 7 out of the 8 episodes, and we get next to nothing for it other than more Mark torture porn, which, like I said, is this show's favorite pastime. But don't lump me in with all of the other Amber haters on YouTube, which there are plenty of, but the issue that I'm talking about here specifically goes well beyond Amber. Look at all of the stuff surrounding Mark's mom, Monster Girl, and anything to do with Mark's schooling. All of this stuff just really repeats itself, and they just kind of tread water. They don't move most of the time. They do eventually in most of these cases, but they tread water for almost all of season 2, and it feels like a lot of the scenes could have been mashed together because we're just repeating problems that we've already solved or we know are just going to resolve themselves, and they're not going to be a big factor here. Ironically, I felt this way a lot about Rexplosion towards the beginning of season 2, because it just seemed like he wasn't going anywhere, he wasn't changing or anything. But then, I actually won't spoil this, but there's a big thing that happens in the middle of season 2 that changes him completely, and every moment we've had up to him just adds flavor to his transformation and to his arc. So yeah, he's a great character. That dude never stays in one place character-wise, and he should get his own spin-off series of comics or something. I'd read that. I'd probably read that before I went and read the entire Invincible comic. Now, typically, I want to give props to a show that can keep this many plates spinning all at once, but several of them have been kind of going by the wayside for episodes at a time, And I think we could have had better flow if we could just touch upon each one of these things in each episode. Like, I think back to the way Breaking Bad did the Kristen Ritter arc. Even when they were touching on that subplot and we didn't know it, they were expanding that and they were playing with that plot, feeding into it. And I think the writers of Invincible are talented enough to pull this off, and they just haven't been challenged to do so because the show's been so well received. Moving into my last complaint, I already kind of touched on it, and I told you not to lump me in with all of the other Amber haters, but with complaint number 3, just go ahead and lump me in with them, because yeah, Amber sucks. She super duper sucks. Realistically, I saved this complaint for last because everyone else has called this out, and I am not treading any new water here. But Amber is 100% the biggest asshole in this show. Except maybe Seth Rogen. Again, I think I gotta go back to season 2 to demonstrate this opinion of it, because everyone talks about, what she did in season 1, and yeah, she super sucks for that, but in season 2, I feel like she kind of tops it, because she demonstrates that she is the exact type of person that wants you to care about whatever the hell she is caring about at that time. That probably doesn't make sense. Let me clarify that a little bit. So, in the beginning-ish of season 2, we have that moment right after graduation where everyone's talking about what they're gonna do with their summer or whatever. And Amber just goes on this thing about how, oh yeah, I'm not really doing anything. Oh wait, I'm volunteering at a soup kitchen. I'm doing recreation with underprivileged kids in the inner city. And I'm volunteering for this person to run for city comptroller. Which, first of all, that's a ton to do when you're like 18, 19. As an 18, 19-year-old, 100% no one ever did this. You're lying if you say that you did anything remotely close to this. That's just fabrication. Secondly, she says it literally apropos of nothing. Like, they're just talking about, their summer or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to sleep a lot, I'm going to party, I'm going to whatever. And then she brings that up, and it completely takes all the air out of the room and just kind of demonstrates what a selfish asshole that she is. Ironically, I feel like her closest counterpart in this show is Rexplosion. But no one ever calls out Amber for her selfish behavior, and everyone calls out Rex for his. So we get to see Rex move on and grow as a person, while Amber remains the absolute same asshole. Minus that one scene where the Viltrum chick is going to break her neck and she looks like she's going to piss herself. But other than that, everything else is just her being an asshole. So, yeah. Amber just sucks. Moving on. I think I want to go do a deeper dive into several parts of the show, Johnny Two Cellos style kind of thing. But this video is long enough as it is, so I'm going to try to wrap up here with some praise. So let me start off by saying that the activism within this show is very subdued. That's a really backhanded compliment, so let me explain here. Generally speaking, I hate it whenever a piece of art that I'm consuming or watching gets co-opted by someone in the writer's room whose dad never came back with that milk. So now they have to make that everyone else's problem by turning this otherwise amazing show into their own personal soapbox and get up and say whatever their flavor of the week thought in their head is. They're the real Ambers of the world. Shit, I'm supposed to be doing praise, aren't I? Oh well, I'll have to remember to put a transition here. Any hooters, that being said, this show does have moments like that, but they're very quick in the background where I can more or less tolerate it. the examples I came up with, or the two biggest examples I could think of, were when the character Bulletproof says something about Cecil making the world better for the white man. I didn't want to go back and get an actual quote. I might throw a clip here, but I doubt it because YouTube loves to copyright me. But the only other example I really wanted to bring attention to was just the fact that, like, every alternate universe or any kind of future storytelling thing that they try to do all comes down to, like, climate change. Like, even when the Viltrumites show up and they're like, oh, you should totally be in our empire and all this, we can stop global warming. It's like, man, I get it, man. We're all gonna die. You don't have to bring it up every fucking 30 seconds. But these are really blink and you miss it kind of moments, as opposed to whatever Amazon was trying to do with The Boys, or especially whatever the fuck they were trying to do to Rings of Power. That all is just text, and I can at least dismiss everything in Invincible as subtext. Springing off that activism point, I actually do want to point out and praise the LGBT representation. One of my favorite movies in the past, I don't know, let's call it 5 years, is Nimona. And Invincible and Nimona both have, like, the best gay representation I think I've seen in cinema in, like, 20 years. These characters that are gay or, otherwise not straight people, they make that their whole personality. But not in Invincible, not in Nimona. These are just traits that the characters happen to have, and the characters exist outside of that. It doesn't define them. Now, cards on the table, I gotta say that I enjoyed these things because I thought it served the story and the characters very well, but I don't understand it fully as a straight dude, so maybe I'm missing something in the subtext of all these other things that are beating me over the head with how gay they can be. So anyway, moving on to my third point of praise, Eve. So kind of springboarding off of that last thing that I just said about me being straight, Eve is probably one of the best characters in this show, if not the best. Like, in an objective way, not just because I have a thing for redheads, but because she is incredibly well written. She's kind of like the anti-Seth Rogen, if you will. And that really is an apt comparison, because I can recognize her voice actor, but I don't feel like she's typecast at all. Also, I think the character development she goes through is so to the point and effective. It's crazy that she has to share a show with Amber and Seth Rogen when she's written this good. As an example to kind of justify my calling her the best character, when she builds the park in Chicago, like, just quick recap, she builds it thinking she's cutting through red tape and getting people what they want, but then it turns out the ground's unstable, there's like a sinkhole underneath it, and things go tits up, people get hurt, kinda sorta, they don't die, but they get hurt, and this ties into, like, everything we know about Eve. It really shows that she has a rocky relationship with her parents. It shows that she has this rocky relationship with her powers and how it alienates her. It also plays into her having skepticism around superhero society in general. And it's just so powerful to see her work through it. And really, this kind of confuses me because all of the pacing issues I have are done away with when it comes to Eve. She is given the perfect amount of screen time to show that she is grieving the loss of, the park and her ideals that she was doing good, but she doesn't let that overshadow what she could do. And it doesn't overstate this. We don't dwell on this. It's omnipresent in her story, but it's organically woven in, so you don't feel like she's just dwelling on it. She's constantly trying to improve. And honestly, I think it was brilliant to send her to school to be an architect so that she can remedy that exact situation. I mean, character growth. Who knew? Take notes, Disney. But like I said, I think there's like 4 other videos to make regarding the good points of this show. Something like Johnny Two Cellos does, but I don't want to be him, so I don't know if I'm ever going to make those. If this video gets a big enough response, I might make another video on Invincible as it goes on through season 3 and probably more seasons. I mean, the show's super popular, so who knows? They could really fuck this up because there's enough time left in season 3, but let's hope it doesn't. It's a great show, and I hope it stays great. And really, that's all I have to say today. So if you like this video, go ahead and show me by hitting that like button. And if you like what I have done here, I do these sorts of rants all the time. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But until next time, I am Spiff the Ice King. Until next time, sayonara, bitches.